So let us see the basic terminologies before going ahead, as most of you guys are from different domains. Let us understand what exactly the virtual machines are and how the visualization methods work, and then we'll jump into the Azure portal and try to create and what are the different components. Okay, so this, as I said, the first, module that we have in the course content, learning the basics of Azure fundamentals, where multiple resources will be discussing so that you could familiarize yourself before jumping into DevOps. So, so many times you might have heard about virtual machine. So, do you have any idea or have you heard about this particular name anytime? What exactly virtual machine is and what exactly the virtualization is? So, generally in old days, okay, so how if you want to have multiple things in common and you are not running out of resources in a particular machine, okay, guys, is there any disturbance in voice or the screen sharing?
No, it looks good now.
Okay,
Yeah, it's look fine.
okay. So in old days, how it was happening was whenever you required, okay, so you have two base operating systems. One is running in Debay, that is Linux, and the other one is running with a Windows operating system. So if you need to have both the operating systems in one machine, so that you could have access to multiple applications that are running on different operating systems, how could that would be possible in a single machine? So the first solution was multi-boot. So if you heard about these words, because you guys might have heard about this because it was long gone, it was long deprecated process like dual boot or multi-boot. What exactly happens is you will have a machine. So what are the components of a machine? If I'm talking about a machine, I'm talking about the actual computer. Okay, the compute power that we require. So there are certain components like your hardware and your software, right? So, and again, there are multiple other components that goes into your hardware, say your hard disk, your RAM, your keyboard, input output peripherals like keyboard and mouse. Okay, and in software comes your operating system, and upon operating system, you'll have your applications installed, and you start using your application. So, if I had an application which is running for the client and it is running up in Linux machine, I have another client that is coming up and is asking that he need to have the application in Windows machine. So how can it be possible? So that was possible in old days by using a dual boot process. Okay, the dual boot process. What do you mean by dual boot? At the integration level, at the hardware level itself, you will have both the operating systems installed on the same hardware. So once the machine boots up, okay, it will give you option to select which operating system you want to go ahead. So if you are selecting Linux, it would boot up into Linux machine and it will give you access about the applications that are present in Linux machine. And if you boot up to Windows, then that goes into Windows. It opens up Windows operating system, and you'll have access to the applications. And clearly, you can see that okay, there is there is a big disadvantage in the usage of this dual boot or multi boot process. So can like at any given point of time, you can have only one operating system running, either it may be Linux or Windows, and then you can have the particular application access only. You cannot have the other applications that are running on other operating systems, and that is a major disadvantage. So how can you overcome it? Okay, how come you can overcome it? That's where your virtualization methods have come into picture, like your VMware, okay, hypervisors. These are all multiple. I think I have a diagram. So, so if you just look into this particular diagram that we have discussed, so it's a kind of virtualization method that we can implement by using the virtualization. So what exactly virtualization is, and we have different types of virtualizations, and One is you will have your base hardware, and on base hardware you will have your operating system. Either it may be Windows, it may be a Linux, or it can be Ubuntu or whatever operating system. And upon that particular operating system, you can have the visualization tool that can install. And upon installing the visualization tool, it will enable you to install multiple other operating systems as processors. Okay, so that you can have access to multiple operating systems within the operating system. So physically they're not present, virtually they're present, but you need to understand the basic point. To run an operating system, you need to have the other hardware components like RAM, HDD, processors, and input output devices, and these will be shared from the host machine. Okay, understand this processes. The reason why we are going visualization and why I'm trying to explain visualization is the same thing will happen once you start using cloud VMs. Okay, the cloud instances or cloud resources that we create or generate, these are virtually present for us. Okay, at the end user, as end user, they are virtually created for us, but in the back end, in the data centers, they're actually present in physical form. Remember this. Okay, so this will give you a lot of advantages, like you can have multiple operating systems running parallelly, you can have multiple applications running in them parallelly, and then at the same point, you can have access to all the machines at a single point. Okay, so that's a powerfulness of visualization, and there are, as I said, types of visualization. One is bare metal, and the other one we call native or uh, visualization. What do you mean by bare metal? So generally, you buy a piece of hardware and then you install operating system on it, and then upon operating system, you'll have the visualization tools installed. Okay, that is we can call it as native. The bare metal type is where in production environments or other environments in on-premises, what we use is directly on the hardware itself. Directly on the hardware itself, you install the visualization tools first, and then you go for the other operating systems on the visualization tools. That's what we call bare metal. Directly, you inject the visualization tools on the hardware itself, and upon hardware, you'll have the multiple operating systems that you want to use it. Okay, so that's what a basic visualization things that have advanced in technologies. Now, do you have any understood the basic concept of why visualization? What exactly visualization is?
Yes, sir. Got the meaning, but
Okay.
just one small doubt. In virtualization, on top of our hardware, we install our host operating system, and on top of it, we can have multiple virtual machines, and those virtual machines can have their own independent OS, right? One can have, let's say, Windows, one can have Linux, and different OS.
Yes.
So how does it basically works? Because we have base operating system as Windows, but
Okay.
we are installing different OS in virtual machines,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe all the virtual machines will consume all the resources like RAM, memory, everything from the hardware itself, right?
Exactly. All the resources, the hardware components that are required will be taken from the host machine, okay, or the host uh, hardware. But the only thing that you need to understand is the virtual operating systems that we are creating. Okay, can somebody mute, please? Guys, can you just innocent Charles? Can you just mute yourself? Okay. So the basic thing, what you need to understand in the concept of virtualization is, so the main operating system that you're inserting, that you're having on your main host machine will have the complete dependencies, library, supporting files, and everything. Whereas the operating systems which you are creating virtually, they need not require to have all the dependencies or everything. They will have simple library files and the dependencies that comes with the image itself. So they just need only the hardware resources from the host machine. Okay. Now you got my point.
Yes, yes, I got that.
Okay.
Raj, one question here.
Yes.
So when we talk about the bare metal, the diagram on the very right is an example of bare metal, right? Where we
Mhm.
have we have removed windows between hardware and virtualization, right?
Yes.
So Raj, yesterday we talked about a diagram where we discussed about IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS offerings.
Yes.
There we saw virtualization, and below we saw server as well, right?
Yes.
So what that server indicates, is it just a combination of hardwares and softwares?
Yeah, obviously, we call even you can call your machine if you're hosting an application on your laptop. You can call that as a server as well. The server is nothing but it will have another different example component. It will just have the basic hardware and software components. Apart from it, it might have other applications pre-installed into it so that it could support the application that it is hosting. So here, what exactly the components, virtualization or the servers or anything that they're doing up over here, there comes into a single unit actually. At the end of the process is that we have the entire stack that is available to us on demand so that we can access it.
So Raj, when we, for example, when we provision, let's suppose a Ubuntu server, a VM in Azure, so we get some storage, network, and all those stuffs. Along with that, we get the host OS. On the top of that host OS, they will install a VM tool, a virtualization tool, and then on top of that, they'll install Ubuntu. Is my understanding correct? So there will be a host OS as well, right? In that case.
No, yes, and then no. The reason yes and no is the server configurations that we are doing up over here or that you are on demanding. Okay, that will be physically present somewhere in some data center on your region that you're selecting. It's not that we do not know that whether they're giving you the entire access to the host OS or they're just restricting you to the virtual OS that you have selected.
Okay, so we don't have that clarity, right? When we provision a
It's not clarity. We do not know that because they never expose that. It's the business model and business secret. Nobody exposes that.
okay, so it could be a host as a physical system, or it could be a virtual system, right?
Yeah, yeah. That nobody knows actually because it's a kind of business secret. And exactly the from the customer centric, if you need an Ubuntu OS, how fast you are giving it to him, that's what everything matters. Whether they're maintaining a physical server of entire Ubuntu OS and they're giving it to you, or it is created in the form of virtualization in the backend server, it's a different scenario. We will not be knowing that.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so let us go ahead and so once we know what exactly virtualization and what we are doing up in the cloud is the same process, rather than having creating ourselves like I need an Windows operating system or Windows server instantly. So I need to have certain application to be running on my Windows server. So what I do generally, I just go out and try to uh, first try to find out what are the different things that I will go into my Windows server, like what is its size or what is its CPU size I required, what is the memory I required, and what is the storage I need required. Everything I'll sort it out, and then I'll go to a store, and then I'll try to if it is available in a single unit, yes, I purchase it. If it is not, then I'll try to assemble it and then bring it to my home. I'll set it up and then I'll start running, install the Windows Server operating system into it and start working on my application. This is what the actual process goes. But the same thing, if you want to start, you know, Windows Server virtual machine directly in the cloud or especially Azure. Okay, so you need to consider or you need to understand the basic terminologies such as for every resource, not only VM we are talking about, for every resource that you required to create or that you need in from the Azure, you need to have a subscription. Okay, you need to have a subscription. So what exactly is a subscription? So a subscription is nothing but the individual identity, like either it's from an organization or from a single individual. As soon as you create the free account, okay, there will be a subscription that will be created for us. Okay, the reason of subscription should be is it's for mainly for billing purposes. Along with it, you can also have multiple things which comes with the subscription as well. For each and every resource that you generate, you need to have a subscription and it will be tagged to the subscription ID. Okay, remember this part. Next, you need to understand resource groups. Okay, so as I said, everything is a resource. We call it as an Azure. Okay, whatever you create, everything is a resource, and we need to have a resource group to be created in the first place. If you already have not created any resource group, yes, you need to create a resource group, and whatever resources that you are creating will be tagged onto that particular resource group, and that resource group will be again attached to the subscription ID. And remember, in one subscription, you can have multiple resource groups that can be created. And in one particular resource group, you can have a number of resources tagged into that particular resource group. Okay. And once that is done, another important component that goes is your location. Okay. Where exactly you want to have the location of your resource to be created. Because if my entire clients, okay, or entire end users are from India, so the nearest region for me in India is India itself. Okay, I'm in India and I have a region of over here and I have availability zone, so that it would be easy for me and my end users to access. So there will be no delay in connections. If I maintain my resources in US or somewhere, so it would be, I mean, there'll not be much delay, but it would be uh, easy, or people choose to whatever nearest location or what is the location they want to choose based on the traffic. They'll select the location itself. Apart from this, there are multiple things that goes into other components whenever you're creating resources. So as I said, the first we are talking about the basics of fundamentals of Azure. Let us start with the VMs itself. So the virtual machines. Okay. So what exactly the virtual machines are? We just discussed that. And what are the components with that goes into the virtual machines? Okay. The first thing would be the name of the VM. Okay. The second one would be the location where you want the virtual machine to be created. Then subscription. So if you want to use the free type that you get as your free trial account, or you want to go with, we have so many models like, okay, like pay as you go model, development model, enterprise model. We have so many models available for the billing purposes. So based on that, you need to select the subscription, and then it comes your base image. That is your operating system. If you have your own operating systems configured and you have an image created out of that operating system, you can use your own image. Otherwise, the the Azure itself will provide you a vast number of multiple operating systems and multiple versions of it. Okay, and once that is done, your network, which is very mandatory to access your resource, and then your storage. See, here I'm going with random components that are which are coming up to my mind. Okay, it's not that everything should be followed the same pattern. Okay, and storage is done. Yeah, monitoring. Okay, so these are the certain components that goes into creation of the virtual machines in Azure Cloud. Okay, so let us see one by one. Okay, let us see one by one what are they. Okay, let us see first with the resource group. Okay, so what exactly a resource group is? As I said in the first before this, so all the resources that you create will be tagged under a resource group, and that particular resource group will be done under the subscription. Okay, it will be tagged with that particular subscription. So say example, I'm creating a resource group called Visual Tech. Okay, so if I create a resource group called Visual Tech, all the resources, okay, all the resources like your virtual machines, network, your virtual machines, yes, your networks, your load balancers, and your application interfaces, all these things can be grouped into this particular resource group, and I can have access to it by going into the resource group, what exactly they're tagged into. Okay, and they're not correlated with each other, but if you need to couple or decouple these components together into a single resource group, even after they created, yes, you do have options for it. Okay, that's what your resources are. Okay, next comes your subscription. As I said, subscription mainly for the billing process itself. And as I said, we have so many models like pay as you go, development, and enterprise models, and free trial. Likewise, we have so many subscription models. Okay, and then comes your actual location. So we already discussed in the first class itself what exactly the locations are. So the basic architecture of Azure is also already we discussed this, is categorized into the geographies, and then your regions, and then your availability zones, which are nothing but the data centers itself. Okay, so all geographies is categorized, and every geography will have multiple regions, and each region will have an availability zone, and in availability zones it can be a single data center or it can be a multiple data centers. As I said, the main concept, even if you are creating the virtual machine or any other resource virtually from sitting in your home, but you're accessing it only virtually, and you think that you're creating it virtually. But the actual thing is that from the data center, there is a physical device that is running up with your resources, which are assigned to you by the creation of your resources. Please remember this. It's not that only that they're created visually and we are just accessing it. So once the location is done, next you need to go with the size of your VM. Okay. So especially talking about the size of your VM. So we have so many sizes that comes with Azure. We have different categories like memory optimized, compute optimized, general purpose, CPU optimized, GPU optimized, storage optimized, and you can see over here, these are different types and sizes of virtual machines. It depends on your actual purpose to which size you wish to go. If you see over here, we have general purpose like B, DSV3, DV3, DSV4, DA4. Likewise, we have so many sizes. Okay, and they'll be categorized in such a way that some would be, like 2 CPUs, some would be like 4 GB RAM, some would be like 80 GB hard disk. Those are pre-configured sizes. Okay, based on your requirement, you can select. And you can see compute optimized. If you're running applications or if you have, high, high number of traffic coming up and application servers that you're running, then you can go with the compute optimized. And if you are running up an applications which needed more memory, okay, then you can go with memory optimized sizes. And if you are running up with databases like SQL or MySQL or big data, then you can go with LSV2. Actually, we had one more storage called LS, but they have deprecated it. And right now we have only LSV2. And again, if you are running with certain applications which require high rendering like graphical processors, then you go with GPU optimized. And finally, we have high performance compute. Even here also we had HP1 and H2 as well, but even those are replicated. So these are different, virtual machine sizes that you can take or you can create based on your requirement. It's not that they're providing you this many and you can use it. Based on your actual requirement, you need to select this particular size of your VM. Okay. Then comes your disk. Okay, these are the basic components that we required to create any operating systems, right? So disks. So we have three types of disks. Okay, like premium SSD and standard SSD and standard HDD. Okay, so based on your performance, like how you want your disks to be created. Generally, whenever you create, especially in VMs, there'll be two disks that will be coming up. One is be your operating system disk, and the other one will be temporary disk. In temporary disk, do not put anything because as soon as you reboot or your virtual machine, or if you want to have any files that are in the temporary storage, they will be lost, and there is no option to retrain it back. Always remember this point. Do not put, if you are working especially with Windows servers, I'll show you in a bit of moment. Do not put your working files or anything in the temporary storage. Always go with the actual storage disk that comes with the operating system. That okay. And once that is done, next you need to have network. So I'm just giving you the just overview. In a couple of minutes, I'll just go deep down and I'll explain it. So what exactly is a network? Of course, you have your resource running, and you need to have access to that particular resource. So here the resources can be for internal resources where you need not require to expose them to the public for usage. You can keep it up within in your network, and you can use it. Or if you want to expose it and have a public IP assigned to it, then you can expose it into your network. So in network particularly, we have the virtual networks. Okay, we have the virtual networks, and we have a network boundary. We have subnets. We have security groups. I'll try to explain you in a diagram so that it would be easy. Guys, are you able to follow? Right? There is no any disturbance or something like that.
No, we are good.
So if this is your Azure subscription, you can have multiple networks. Okay, so let's say example virtual network one, I'll say virtual network two, and virtual network three. Okay, so within this virtual network, I can have a number of resources that will be running. So say example, I have this. This is virtual machine, and another virtual machine that is running for storage. So another resource that is running application server, and another resource that is doing with SQL. So likewise, we can have multiple resources within one particular virtual network, and this is what we called as a virtual network boundary. Okay, so by default, okay, the components that you have in one virtual network cannot be accessed from the another virtual network. Okay, remember this part. By default, this is not possible. Of course, it does not mean that it is entirely not possible. By default, this particular resources cannot access this particular resource because they are in two different virtual networks. By default, it is not allowed. If you need such kind of architecture, yes, you can input certain rules, and you can have give access in between your virtual networks. So understood this concept, guys? Hello.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay. So yes, now comes the second point. So we, as I said, what are the resources that we have within one particular virtual network that they can have access to each other or not. As I said, the resources in one virtual network cannot have access to another virtual network. Okay, that's fine. That's the kind of security that we need to provide so that it would be secure. What about the resources that are running within the virtual network? Yes, here all the resources that falls under within one virtual network can have access to them, or they can communicate with them easily. They can communicate with them easily without any issue. So how do you restrict even that access? You don't want your this particular application to communicate with this particular VM or the storage account to this particular SQL. You need to restrict another layer of security within the resources within the virtual network. So how do they communicate in the first place? That's where your subnets comes into picture. Okay. So this particular this particular VM will have subnet one, and this application can have subnet two, and they can communicate with each other using those subnets. Okay, and they'll have by default the range of 10 dot from x dot 24. Likewise, this 24, 16, these are CID here. Going down the sessions when we are dealing with network section, I'll explain you in detail what exactly this things are. So if this is the IP range, your virtual network and your subnets will get the range of this particular IPs. So this subnet will have 10.x.1. something, and this subnet will have 10.2.1. The range will be picked automatically from this particular IP range that you define up over here, but by default, it would be, it starts from 10 dot. Okay, so how do you restrict? How do you restrict even this particular resources within the particular virtual network can be taken care of so that they're not talking up together? That's where your network security groups comes into picture. Okay, we can call it as NSGs. Okay, so how come these network security groups help you out? So that we can write certain rules that what are the things should be allowed, or what are the inbound traffic or outbound traffic or the communication that should be allowed within the resources. We can write the network security group rules, and we can inject in between the resources within one particular network. Okay. So what goes into network security groups, and what are the rules or the kind of firewall that acts as a? So what are the things that we required over here, like your ports, your source and destination from where it comes? So generally in NSG rules, there will be only two components that you should understand. So inbound, that we call ingress, and outbound, we call egress. Okay. So what are the things that we required over here in particular ingress? In ingress, it should be what is the source IP or port. Okay, what are the source IP and port, and what is the destination IP that it should be allowed, or port that it should be allowed. And once that is done, whether we have the priorities, whether you want to allow them or deny them, and what are the priority that you should give to this particular incoming traffic. So these are all the things that goes into your writing of your rules into your network security groups. See, I'm just giving you the overview. I'm not going much deeper layers because we have separate section for network. Those scenarios I'll explain you what exactly I'm talking about over here. The same goes with your outbound rules as well. Okay, so we need a source IP and destination port numbers, and whether we want to allow or deny, or what are the priority things that we should do. So this is how we write the network security groups, so that we can restrict the resources that are running up in single virtual network that can you know give access or not, or deny or allow. Everything can be done as per the records that we create or the rules that we write. Okay, so these are the main components that we need to understand when creating an virtual machine. And coming to the dashboard, once you log in into your once you created an account, this is your general dashboard of Microsoft Azure. Okay, so let me explain you one by one. This will be your portal menu, okay, where you have all the things that are given by the resource from Azure. And you can just, if you want to hide this, you can click on it, and this will be your home icon. At any point of time, if you wish to come directly into the main landing page, you can click on it anytime. And right now, this particular account is into free trial. Okay, this particular account is into free trial. And I'll show you that. And if you want to upgrade, okay, always remember, make sure whenever you're clicking this upgrade button over here, okay, make sure you're ready for the upgrade subscription, because your credit card would be attached to the account. So by mistake, any point of time, you have upgraded yourself and you forgot about it, and you start using the resources as a part of free trial, and you'll be charged. Anyway, at the time of creating the resources, you do have an option to choose the subscription type, whether it is a free trial or pay as you go model or everything. So, but make sure yourself you're aware of this particular button. Okay, next you have the search bar where you can search for a number of resources on the particular account or subscription, and then you have your CLI, that is Cloud Shell, which is used to access your Azure resources. Again, I'm just giving you the overview. I'm not going much deeper, which in the coming sessions we'll be talking about them much later. And here, your directory and subscription. Okay, I haven't pinned it. And then you have the notification center. Whenever or whatever you do in your Azure account, you will have a notification what exactly is happening. Like you are creating a virtual machine, or if you want to delete it something, everything will be notified to you. Okay, and then you have your settings over here, and then you have your help button over here where you can if you got stuck somewhere and you need to have a proper guidance for you, then you can use this help button. And then finally you have your account section over here. Okay, and then Azure services, like all the services you can see up over here. And then refresh. Okay, so first thing first, as I said, we have the subscription. Now I have an account, and as my subscription ID is created, next we need to go with the resource group. If you haven't created any resource group, you can see over here I got a notification that I still have 12,253 credits something on my account, free credit that I get by using the free trial subscription. Once that is done, I can upgrade it to my pay as you go subscription, which we'll see coming down the sessions. I'll explain you about the subscriptions as well. And yes, coming to resource groups. So if you click on the resource groups, and you can see there are previously I tried to do it. That is the reason you're able to see resources. In your case, if you want to create a resource group, let me add how you can add the resource group. Okay, now you can see how I'm creating a resource group. While creating the VM also, you do have option, okay, to create a new resource group, or you can directly come into the resource group section and you can select it. Okay, that's not an issue. So you can see it's a free trial right now because I haven't updated it to pay-as-you-go model. And then finally, second thing is you need to give a resource group name. Okay, so I'll give batch system. Okay, so this is the resource group that I'm creating, and what are the things that we practice that will be stored up into this batch 16 resource group. And finally, you need to select the region where exactly you want to have your region. So I'll just leave it as US East by default. And next we have tags. Again, to have a particular tag name and value, which will be discussed in further sessions in tags. So simply create review and create. And you can see a notification, resource group created. You can see up over here, resource group created, and you can pin it to dashboard or go to that particular resource group directly. And if you see over here, okay, can you see my subscription ID? So when I've created the account, the subscription ID will be given to me, and that particular subscription ID will be displayed up over here. Okay, so that's how you create a simple resource group instantly. Okay, I'm not going much deeper today. It's just a overview, and one by one we'll be going ahead. So let us go and quickly see how a simple virtual machine can be created. Like I was talking about, how a simple Windows server can be created. So you can search, go to the home page, and you can search for virtual machine, or you can use directly your search bar, and you can also go over to the virtual machine. And you can see there are no any virtual machines that are running up over here. So how can I create a virtual machine if I need a virtual simple machine or Windows server immediately, instantly? So simply click on add a virtual machine. And now you can see these are the different components that goes into creating the virtual machines, and we call it as blade actually. So each blade will have different configurations. The first one, if you see the subscription. Okay, so guys, are you able to follow, right? There is no any disturbance in the screen or voice.
Yeah, we are good.
Okay. So the first thing that you need to put up over here is what is your subscription. As I said, even if by mistake you have upgraded yourself, you do have option. If you still your free trial is left, you do still have the option to go with the free trial subscription. And if pay as you go model has been upgraded, you get the list of it. And any other subscription has been upgraded, then even that will be given to available over here as in the form of list. Okay, so here we are into free trial. Next, as I said, the most important, every resource that you create in the first place, it should go and sit into a resource group and it should be tagged in such a way. So here you can create a new resource group if you wish directly, or if you just click on this, you get all the resource groups that are present. And here you can see the batch 16 resource group that you have previously created. And if you haven't created, you want to go with a new resource group, you can simply click on the create new, and it will take you to the same page where you created the resource. So click on batch 16. And then next come the instance details, like virtual machine details. So you can give it a name over here. Say example, I'll say demo 1. Okay, so remember this, if you're giving up this particular name over here, and even the machine that creates will be, or the resource that will be generated also will have the same name. Okay, but this is Azure level, and machine level, if you log in, and you can change that particular name over there, which we'll see down the sessions while learning about the Linux and other debian systems. I'll show you how you can change the name, the host name or the name on the machine level and Azure level as well. Next, you need to select your region, in which region you want this particular VM to be available or put up. Okay, I'll leave it as US is default. And if you need any other regions that you can select, and availability options. Okay, so what exactly availability options is? So if you want, you can select availability zones, and it will give you another option that US East, okay, have 3 availability zones and which availability zone you require. So that is how availability zones and available sets. Even this will be discussed in much deeper, not in today's section. And because these are for high availability, how you require your VM to be available with zero downtime. Okay, that is your. We'll come back to that. Right now, I'm not selecting. Next is your image. Okay, what do you mean by image? Remember, guys, I've explained you all these components that goes into here. Okay, what are the components that goes into a VM? Okay, that's what I'm trying to explain you over here. Okay, so what are the, right now it's a Ubuntu server, it is showing up. So I want an Red Hat Enterprise. Yes, you can go with, you need to see. These are all Debian based systems. Okay, so right now I'm trying to use Windows Server 2016. I just want to create a Windows server. Select that, and then this pod instances, I'll explain you. We have separate section for it, what exactly. And next comes the size. What exactly you want the size. As I showed you, we have so many sizes available over here. Based on your selection, that will be like you want compute optimized or general purpose or memory optimized. These things will be on your selection. Based on that, you can do that. So here we'll go with standard 8 GB memory, and you can see the price as well. If I'm running this particular machine for 1 month, I'll be charged around 9,071 rupees. Okay, it gives you instant price itself. That may vary, 100 or 200 may vary, but it gives you the overall average price. Then you need to, as a Windows server, we need to have a proper administrator, and also you need to give an administrator account ID and password. Okay, so once that is done, then I need to select the incoming traffic to access this particular machine from where it can use. As it is not a Debian system, we are not going to do any SSH. Okay, we need to go with remote desktop plugin. Okay, so that is the reason by default it is selected for Windows Server. If it is Linux or CentOS or Red Hat or Debian or Ubuntu, then you need to open up the port 22. Okay, and if you have any particular application that you are trying to put up into the particular server and you need to have give access, then you can go with HTTP or HTTPS as well. Okay, so right now we'll go stick with the RDP itself. That is used for Windows. And next comes the licensing. So if you're already a customer of Windows and you have a license purchased from Windows separately, And then if you have that particular license with you, server license, you can say yes, and then you can utilize that particular server license. Otherwise, you can simply say no because you don't have a license. Okay, next comes the disk. As I said, uh, we have three types like premium SSD, standard SSD, and standard HDD. So this is again about the performance on the disk input and output ratio or rate that goes into. Based on that, you can select, and we have a separate section for disks as well, where we can have multiple disks or create a new disk and attach it to the existing virtual machine, or we have a separate disk with us which is pre-configured and we can attach it. So you can see over here, attach an existing disk and create and add a new disk, which we'll see in tomorrow's or day after tomorrow's session, which will go much deeper. I'm just going the overview.
By default, this block size would be 64 KB or 4 KB or something like that by default.
Sorry?
No, by default, when you attach a disk, new disk or extend an existing disk, the disk block size, would
It
be
depends.
something.
It depends on the type of disk you're attaching or the configured pre-existing disk that you're configured. It depends on it.
Okay, that means this will be picked from OS layer, right, or a physical storage. Or that
Yes.
how much information that physical storage is there, we don't have, but our
Yes.
only. Okay, okay.
Okay. In advanced session, you have managed disk and what are managed disk and non-managed disk. This will be, again discussed in detail in the coming up section. Next comes here networking. Okay, so what are the things that we have? See, as I said, we need to have a virtual network, and by default, it has taken the resource group name itself. So we created a resource group name batch 16, and by default, it is taken the virtual network. And also, you can see if we have a subnet range, okay, you can specify over here and you can create over here. Again, that goes with the creation of the virtual network itself, or what you define. But by default, whatever it is giving you. Then comes your public IP. So if you want this particular server that only you are using and you don't need anybody to access to it, then you can simply remove this public IP. Okay, you can simply say none. Okay, so that it will be only accessed internally, okay, within that particular network, not to the outside. So in case if you are allowing it to have public IP, then you can have applications running internally. People can access into it. And again, NIC network security groups, I just given basic. We'll discuss again, as I said, we have a complete section for networking where will be discussed in detail between what is the difference between none, basic, advanced, and public inbound ports, hello, selected ports. And as I said, selected, it's for Windows. Again, it will be an RDP itself. And then right now it's a single server. I did not require any load balancing, so it will be a no. And next, the management, like for monitoring or just a second, yes. Yeah, for monitoring and advanced tags and review and create, we need not require to discuss right now. So I'll just skip this part, just leave it as defaults. And tags, again, we have separate section for it. And just today, we are just giving some overview and what exactly the VMs are. So we could go in much detail. So once you select create, okay, and it will start creating the virtual machine for you, and you can see the notification here that it is submitting the deployment. You can see it's deployment in process. So what we just did over here, let us go to home section and let us see virtual machine. Still it is not created, still taking time. Okay, still process of creating. You can observe the process status over here. So what exactly we did over here, we just created, and you can see deployment succeeded. Okay, the VM was created successfully, and you can just refresh. You can see the status running. So another thing you need to observe over here. So we just created a simple virtual machine, right? That's a kind of resource. So do you believe that only that particular resource got created? A simple virtual machine resource got created? No, there are so many other resources that also got created and was tagged into this particular resource group called batch 16. If you go to into resource group and check batch 16, and you can see the virtual network got created, the virtual machine got created, another resource called public IP address, another NSG, that is your security group, and your network interface and your disk. These are all the resources that got created with a single creation of the virtual machine under that particular resource group. So what it means is that whenever you're creating anything, okay, in Azure that can have multiple resources coming up associated with it, and all those will be tagged into a single virtual machine. Single resource group. Okay. Now I have created a virtual machine. It is running. I can see that it is running, and everything is fine. Now, how do you access it? Okay, how do you access it? Just click on demo on the particular virtual machine, and you have an option called connect. Okay, and also you can see all the other details like what is your resource group, where exactly the location is, the status is, and for networking, what is the public IP address and what is the private IP address that you got, and all those details about the particular virtual machine will be available to you. And you can also see the size and what the size that we have selected, the standard one D2 just V3, and the disk space that got allotted. And this is not a spot instance or a spot resource, so we don't have Azure Spot. And scaling and availability zone, that also we have disabled. So it is all the details will be given up over here. Don't worry. Again, for this also we'll have in-depth in-depth what exactly these things are and how this information will come handy to you when you got stuck somewhere. I'll explain you in coming up session. Now let us quickly connect. Click on connect and select RDP, and it will ask you to download the RDP file because you need to have the RDP file. And it is not a Debian machine, so we cannot do SSH. Simply download the RDP file and you can run the RDP file. Let's say connect, and last one is the credentials. So here you need to pass the credentials. So the administrator account that we have created and the password that we have given up over here. And you can see we have connected to the Windows server directly. And if you observe, as I said, particularly in Windows, okay, if you're working with Windows machines, the disks that we have seen, you can see that this is your operating system disk and this is your temporary storage. This is what I was talking about. Do not store your working files in this temporary storage because it's for Azure, the Microsoft guys. And whenever you reboot your machine, okay, you will automatically get deleted. You can also read the temporary warning. Any data stored on this drive is subject to loss and there is no way to recover it. As I said, there is no process that you can retain it. Even if you reboot, this temporary storage will be reallocated and restored back. Okay. So this is your server dashboard, which we need not require. Close the window and you can see the host name that we got is demo1. That was the name of the uh, virtual machine that we have given in while creating the VM. But that was Azure level. Okay, that was Azure level. But here, if you come over here, we can change this host name. But that is not a right standard practice. Okay, you cannot have one particular host name in your machine level and another name in Azure level, that makes a lot of confusion. Okay, so always try to maintain that. Whenever you're creating the resources, try to have the same name. Okay, so that's it, guys, for today's session. Just an overview what exactly the dashboard is and how we quickly can create within fraction of seconds. How you can have access to your virtual machine environments and how fast we can create the virtual machines. I just try to show you. Okay. Now, once you started creating the virtual machine, you already have access to it. Okay. Now, how can you delete it? You're done with your work. Okay. How can you delete it? Simply you can click over here and you can see pin to your dashboard. You can connect, you can restart, you can stop. Remember, even if you stop it, you'll still be chargeable because the resources are still holded for you. So always remember, unless and until it's a kind asked for you, please delete it. Well, the entire training session, whenever we don't require any resources in each and every lab that we do, each and everything that we practice, I will tell you which ones to have, you need to stop and use it for the next day in the session, and which ones to delete it. Until I say something, always delete the resources that you create. Okay. And even for this, let me check. So still in the setting of deleting status. Okay, it will be done. So from today we kickstarted it and we just roll in, and from tomorrow it will be same regular sessions will happen, and which we go deeper into modules, and also we'll have a separate WhatsApp group for any doubts or day-to-day activities or assignments and everything. Uh, I think the admin team will get back to you. The group will be created for the people who have made the payments, and everything will be done there. And that's it for today's session, guys. Let us connect tomorrow. Any queries, doubts, you can put at me. Guys, any queries?
No, Raju. As of now, no.
No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, everything
So-
looks good.
If everything is clear, can I close the session?
Yep.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for attending. Let us catch up tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Raju.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Raj.
you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.